Alright Tenno, here's my Mirage Prime update. I've been using this build for a while now, not claiming it's meta or perfect, but it's reliable, fun, and fits how I want to play. If you want a Mirage setup with strong crowd control, real damage scaling, and practical invisibility, this is how I do it. I'll break down everything, with abilities, arcanes, mods, shards, all with real mechanics. Let's start with Mirage passive. You get 25% bullet jump height and a 50% aim glide duration and plus 100% slide speed. It's a nice little mobility bonus, but honestly doesn't really impact my build or playstyle. For her abilities, here's how it works. Hall of Mirrors. This creates Mirage's clones that mirror your weapon fire. This is always on for extra damage and more shots down the range. I've replaced the second ability Sleight of Hand with Evade subsumed from Sight 09. Here's where the build gets its core playstyle. With no mods, Evade gives you 10 seconds of invisibility per cast and you get plus 2 seconds per weak point kill, capping out at 15 seconds. But with my current setup, including duration mods and the Archon Shards, I'm getting 28.4 seconds of invisibility per cast, and each weak point kill adds 5.68 seconds up to the maximum of 42.6 seconds. So yes, ability duration mods and shards absolutely increase the uptime and power of Evade. If you're hitting those weak points, you can stay invisible for a very long time. Her third ability, Eclipse, when casting, if you hold it down, it increases your weapon damage, and when you tap it, it gives damage reduction, all scaling with your ability strength. Now her fourth ability, Prism, deploys a floating prism that fires lasers in all directions, blinding and damaging enemies, and with the right mods, this is a huge crowd control tool. And for my arcane setup, I'm using Arcane Crepuscular and Molt Augmented. Arcane Crepuscular triggers while invisible, granting me plus 30% ability strength and a 3 times final critical multiplier. So every time I use Evade, I get a massive bump in power for both my abilities and crit-based weapons. Molt Augmented gives additional ability strength per enemy kill, stacking up to plus 60%. This just builds up as you play, and unless you die, you keep stacking more and more power into your kit. And for my mod setup, this is exactly my mod lineup and the reason behind each choice. In the Aura slot, I'm using Worthy Camaraderie. This increases your squad weak point critical chance by 75%. It's a straightforward way to boost precision damage for the whole team, especially if you or your squad are aiming for those headshots. In the Exilo slot, I'm using Power Drift. This gives plus 15% ability strength and plus 30% knockdown resistance. The strength is what we want here. Knockdown resist is just a bonus. On my main mods, I'm using Prime Flow for additional 275 maximum energy, which is a must for Mirage. Between Hall of Mirrors, Eclipse, and Prism, you are using a lot of energy, so this keeps you up. Prime Continuity for plus 55% ability duration. This extends Eclipse, Prism, Hall of Mirrors, and most importantly, the base duration of Evade. Stretch is here for additional plus 45% ability range, purely for making Prism's laser and blind hit a bigger area. Prism Guard is an augment for Prism, so every time you cast it, instead of bouncing off in random directions, your Prism now follows you and stays where you need it for crowd control. I picked this over Hall of Malevolence because it's all about control and utility, not just raw damage numbers. Narrow-minded is here because duration is what matters for keeping Eclipse, Prism, and Evade running longer. The range penalty is manageable because Stretch balances it out. Equilibrium converts health pickups to energy and vice versa. With this and a good companion setup, I barely run out of energy and can always keep my abilities rolling. Blind Rage is here because the strength is worth it for the scaling. I've got enough energy economy with Equilibrium and Prime Flow to absorb the efficiency loss. Precision Intensify, so this mod gives plus 90% ability strength for your 4th ability, Prism. Here is my Archon Shard loadout. 1 Tau Forge Amber for casting speed, so it makes it faster to throw out Evade, Eclipse, Prism, and Hall of Mirrors when needed. 1 Tau Forge Amber, which gives plus 45% maximum energy field on spawn. This is a personal pick for quality of life. I like to be able to cast abilities from the moment I spawn in the map. 2 Tau Forge Crimsons for ability duration. This just pushes my duration on every ability even higher, including Evade's Invisibility Time, Eclipse, Prism, and Hall of Mirrors. So here's how I actually play this. I activate Hall of Mirrors first for the damage and multi-shot effect, then hold down Eclipse for the massive damage boost. After that, I cast Evade to go invisible, and with my build, I can stay invisible and keep Arcane Crepuscular up nearly all the time if I'm on point with my shots. Prism is there as my utility and backup crowd control. Because of Prism Guard and my range mods, Prism follows me and blinds everything nearby. It's not just for damage but for reliable CC as well. I skip tank mods like Adaptation, Rolling Guard, and Prime Redirection. Instead, my survivability comes from the invisibility, uptime, and constant crowd control. And for energy, I just keep picking up orbs. Equilibrium and Prime Flow mean I almost never run dry. So that's the complete Mirage Prime build. This build gives me high uptime on invisibility, big damage scaling, and Prism for reliable crowd control, all wrapped in one setup. Let's talk about the main firepower of this Mirage build. I rotate between 3 primary weapons depending on the mood or mission. These weapons are the Boltor Prime Incarnon, Burston Prime Incarnon, and Stahlta. All 3 of these have a core synergy with this Mirage kit, and there's a common thread here. All of them run Galvanized Scope, Spectral Serration, Primary Equity, and Primary Deadhead. This 4 alone gives me massive scaling for headshot damage, especially while invisible, which works perfectly with the way my Mirage is set up. Let's talk about the Arcane Primary Deadhead. Every time I land a precision headshot kill, I gain plus 120% damage for 24 seconds, and this stacks up to 3 times for a total of 360% damage. I also get a plus 30% headshot multiplier, and my weapon recoil is cut into half. Hall of Mirror clones multiply my chances to get headshot kills, so keeping Primary Deadhead fully stacked is easy. With this Arcane always up, every headshot is devastating, and all my primaries handle smooth and steady no matter how fast they fire. With this Mirage build, all these 3 mods are always on all my primary weapons. Galvanized Scope. On every headshot, this mod gives plus 120 critical chance for 12 seconds and stacks up to 2 times, for a total of 240 crit chance. Because Hall of Mirrors sends out so many extra projectiles, it's almost trivial to keep this buff fully stacked. This makes even base weapons hit red crit territory and helps make every headshot count. Spectral Serration. This is the backbone of my primary damage. While invisible, my weapon gets plus 330% damage. This is a huge additive bonus that stays active the entire time I'm invisible, which is most of the mission thanks to Evade. You won't find better single mod value for a Mirage build centered on invisibility uptime. Primary Equity. This gives plus 350% weak point damage and plus 350 weak point critical chance, but disable all multi-shot mods. That would normally be a drawback, but Hall of Mirrors completely makes up for it by multiplying my shots. This mod is about one thing: going all in on weak point and headshot multipliers. The payoff is enormous when you play Mirage aggressively. With just these 4, I'm stacking crit, headshot, and invisibility based damage to a ridiculous degree. Now let's break down each primary and how the rest of the mods push their strength even further. Boltor Prime Incarnon. In the Exilo slot, I'm using Terminal Velocity. Terminal Velocity increases the flight speed of Boltor Prime's bolts by 60%. Normally, Boltor's projectiles are some of the slowest among primaries, which can make it tricky to land consistent headshot at range, especially with Mirage's clones firing from slightly offset positions. With this mod, every shot feels instantly snappier, letting me track fast-moving targets and secure weak points hits more reliably. This pairs perfectly with the swift deliverance from the Incarnon evolutions, so my bolts fly almost like hit scan. If you're used to feeling projectile weapons feeling sluggish, this mod makes Boltor Prime feels completely responsive, both for you and your Hall of Mirror clones. Galvanize Aptitude. This mod increases my damage by plus 80% per unique status effect on the target, stacking up to plus 240%. The more different status procs I inflict, the more damage I get. With this Boltor build running both Heat and Toxin, every extra element proc stacks more bonus damage. And the Hall of Mirror ensures I'm spreading plenty of statuses all the time. Vital Sense. This adds plus 120% critical damage. With all the crit chance from Galvanized Scope and Primary Acuity, this mod just scales those yellow and orange crits even higher. Prime Shred. Grants plus 55% fire rate and plus 2.2 punch through. Fire rate keeps my shots flowing and the punch through lets me hit multiple targets or even line up multiple weak points hits in a row. Perfect for dense or corridor maps. Hellfire. This gives plus 90% hit damage, bringing in more elemental procs for extra galvanized aptitude scaling and status effect diversity. Malignant Force. Plus 60% toxin and plus 60% status chance. When combined with Hellfire, I can create viral for even bigger damage against health bars, and my status chance gets a major boost. Boltor Prime Incarnon with this setup is a status and crit machine. With Galvanized Aptitude, every new status effect is scaling my base damage. And Prime Shred lets those bolts fly fast and punch through lines of enemies. With Hall of Mirrors and Invisibility up, I'm constantly keeping all these buffs rolling. Every shot hits hard, and the scaling just keeps ramping up the longer the mission goes. Now, here's my Burston Prime Incarnon setup. Vigilante Supplies is one of those set and forget mods that really shows its value over time. It converts any dropped ammo type into rifle ammo for Burston, which means you're never left dry even in long missions where rifle ammo is scarce. But the real bonus comes from the Vigilante set effect. Every Vigilante mod you equip increases your chance to enhance critical hits, turning yellow crits into orange and orange into red. Even with just this one, I'm nudging my crits a bit higher, which is great for all the crit scaling in this build. It also makes Burston Prime, which isn't known for high ammo efficiency, feel smooth and reliable in any game mode. I've equipped Vital Sense for plus 120% critical damage. Malignant Force because I'm aiming for viral procs in combination with other elemental mods, such as Rhyme Rounds. Combined with the Malignant Force, this brings in Viral, which is a great all-around status for high-level enemies. Critical Delay for plus 200% critical chance at the cost of negative 20% fire rate. The fire rate penalty is nothing compared to the massive crit scaling you get, and Burston's base fire rate is already strong. Gilded Truth is a Burston Prime exclusive augment. It gives me plus 80% fire rate and unlocks the Truth effect. Every time I gain 1000 affinity with Burston Prime, I triggered an AoE burst of 1000 gas damage and a guaranteed gas proc to all enemies within 25 meters. Heal 25% of my max health and get a 25% bonus to parkour velocity, aim glide, and wall latch for 30 seconds. There's a 30-second cooldown, but in any mission with a bit of speed, I can keep triggering this pretty much on rotation. It's free AoE, and healing for just playing the game. Burston Prime Incarnon is all about burst control and buff stacking. The augment gives me both fire rate and passive healing. And all the crit and status mods mean every shot can hit for massive viral and crit numbers. Ammo never runs dry with vigilante supplies, and the truth gives me bonus AoE and survivability so I can stay aggressive. Last but not the least, the next weapon is Stahlta. On the Exilo slot, I also used vigilante supplies. Same as with Burston, vigilante supplies here guarantees that Stahlta never runs out of ammo. No matter how wild things get, Stahlta's high fire rate can burn through ammo in a flash. But with this mod, it just keeps the flow going. Plus, I'm getting the crit set bonus to help edge up my headshot numbers even further. With a build focus on rapid headshot chains and keeping all of my buffs up, this little bit of insurance keeps the damage coming with zero downtime. In the mods, I'm using Galvanized Aptitude. The more different status effect I apply to a target, the more my base damage ramps up. With Stahlta's high fire rate and status chance, this is always at full value. The next one is Vital Sense, again for plus 120% critical damage. 2 60-60s, Malignant Force and Cryo rounds for easy viral combos and more status effects stacking. Critical delay, because Stahlta already fires fast, so the trade-off is minimal compared to the crit boost. Stahlta's main fire is rapid, accurate, and perfect for Mirage's headshot chaining style. Every shot with the Hall of Mirrors adds more status effect for Galvanized Aptitude. The high crit and status scaling mean I'm getting the best of both worlds on every target. Ammo efficiency from Vigilante supplies means I never have to worry about running out. And Spectral Serration keeps my damage sky high the entire time I'm invisible. That's how I run my primaries with this Mirage Prime build. Every slot is chosen for a reason, and every mod, arcane, and Incarnon evolution stacks together for headshot-focused, crit-heavy, status-spreading damage. The synergy is all in-game tested and built around Mirage's Hall of Mirrors, so I can swap between these primaries and always feel like I'm getting the best out of this frame. Now, let's cover my secondary weapon. For this build, I'm running the Grimoire, but I don't use it for killing or status spreading. The whole point of equipping this secondary is one mod, Riz Invocation. Here's how it works. Riz Invocation is a tome mod that turns Grimoire's alternate fire into a duration battery. Every time I fire the alt and hit enemies, I get plus 4% ability duration for 20 seconds for each enemy hit. It stacks up to 15 times. So in a dense crowd, I can quickly ramp up my ability duration up by just as much as 60%. Each stack tracks its own 20-second timer. So as long as I hit enough enemies, that bonus sticks around for a decent chunk of any fight. Why do I care about this? Ability duration is crucial for Mirage. It directly extends the time I stay invisible with Evade, increases the uptime of Eclipse and the Hall of Mirrors, and keeps my Prism out longer for crowd control. With Grimoire's alternate fire and Riz Invocation, I don't have to rely just on mods or arcanes. I can boost my duration on demand whenever the situation calls for it. It's as simple as swap, then alt fire into a pack and go back to my primaries and abilities with longer buffs. I'm not worried about the other mods in this weapon because I don't use Grimoire for damage or kills. It's here strictly to boost my ability duration with Riz Invocation. Everything else is secondary. That's the Grimoire slot in this build. Simple, effective, and focus only on what matters, making my Mirage's duration better when I need it, without even getting in the way of my main playstyle. Now, let's talk about the companion setup I'm using for this Mirage Prime build. Because Dorma Hound isn't just here for utility. It's a huge part of the reason why my weapon fire rate gets so high, and it supports my playstyle across the board. First up is Synergize Prospectus. This precept lets my Hound fire an electric spark that tracks down enemies within 30 meters, explodes for electricity damage, and procs the electricity status effect. The spark can ricochet between enemies, and if there's no one left to bounce to, it comes back to the original target. Not only does this help soften up groups, but every status effect that comes out of this synergizes directly with some of the bond mods in this build. Manifold Bond is what really ties this whole setup together. My Hound's ability can apply status effect from its equipped weapon, not just the ability's own damage. Plus, every time an enemy dies with 3 or more unique status effects, it reduces the cooldown on the Hound's abilities by 3 seconds. This means more frequent synergized prospectus and repo audit pulses, more CC, and more consistent support. Contagious Bond spreads the pain around. When my Hound kills an enemy that has a status effect, 50% of those status procs are spread to enemies within 9 meters. So if I'm running Viral or Toxin on my Hound weapon, or just stacking random procs with synergized prospectus, it all gets multiplied and thrown at the nearest pack. Reinforced Bond is the real fire rate booster. Here's the deal. As long as my Hound shield or overshields are above 1200, my weapon fire rate gets bumped up to 60%. Each time I reload, my Hound gets 150 overshields, making it easier to keep this threshold going. With calculated redirection modded on, you just need at least 343 base shields to hit that number. So it's pretty easy to maintain. As long as my Hound isn't down, this fire rate buff is nearly permanent, and it absolutely stacks with everything else in this build. Every weapon I swap to just feels turbocharged. Repo Audit is another precept for control. It lets the Hound send out magnetic pulse that hits enemies up to 30 meters away. This deals magnetic damage and permanently disarms anyone caught in the pulse. That's for status for even more procs. But more importantly, it's hard CC, making life easier for Mirage in high-pressure situations. Vacuum is just a quality of life. It sucks up all the loot, ammo, and mods around me even if my Hound gets knocked down. It keeps my pickups flowing so I never have to waste time running around. Enhanced Vitality and Calculated Redirection are all about keeping the Hound alive. The more health and shields it has, the less downtime I see, and the easier it is to keep buffs like Reinforced Bond up and running. My Hound becomes a lot harder to kill and the fire rate stays high for long stretches. Tenacious Bond is a sneaky bonus. Whenever I get a headshot kill, my Hound's recovery time if it gets down is reduced by 3 seconds. If my Hound's crit chance is at or above 50%, I get a plus 1.2 times final critical damage multiplier to my own weapons. That flat multiplier stacks on top of all my usual crit bonuses, making every headshot and weak point shot hit that much harder. Perfect for how I mod all my primaries in this build. Since Deconstruct rounds things out, by giving any enemy my Hound damages a 25% chance to drop a health orb on death, including enemies with shields. That's great for healing, but if you are running Equilibrium on Mirage, every health orb is basically free energy so I can keep my abilities rolling non-stop. When you add all of this up, this Dorma Hound build is about more than just having a pet for Vacuum and Synth Deconstruct. This setup gives me permanent fire rate buffs, spread status all over the place, gives me extra healing and energy, and makes every fight smoother and more efficient. All without ever having to micromanage my companion. It just works in the background, powering up my Mirage and making every weapon in my arsenal feels much better. Before I wrap up, I won't go into detail about my companion weapon since it isn't a core focus for this build. But you can see my full companion setup on screen if you're curious about how I've modded it. And that's the full breakdown of my Mirage Prime build. From the frame, the weapons, the secondary setup, right down to the companion. This build is all about synergy and making every part work together for a maximum damage and survivability. And honestly, it's just a blast to play. If you found this guide helpful or you've picked up something new for your own Mirage build setup, drop a like and let me know what you think in the comments. If you've got your own tweaks or you want to share your builds, I'd love to hear about it. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more Warframe builds and guides. I'm always working on new ways to push these frames to the next level. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay sharp and keep experimenting, Tenno. See you in the next one.
Scrubbers are starting to emerge. I gotta have it to the little guy. He knows how to talk to the appliances. Need you to stay on top of those scrubbers. You see growth, shoot it. Hey, I need 20 cc's of fix your damn shit. You get a little close, no? That bought you some time. You're welcome. Serving up another hell scrubber. Great. You lost a scrubber, but that's the least of your problems. Tick, tick, tick. Time's running out. You've got 30 seconds to pull through or I'm pulling you out.